be prepared, because what is about to unfold is not just another date on a calendar, not just another Friday passing through unnoticed, but the kind of moment that changes the rhythm of your existence forever. On September 26, 2025, the cosmos rearranges itself in a way that has not happened for lifetimes, and whether you believe in astrology, destiny, or divine timing, you are already being pulled into its gravity. Most will walk through the day without even realizing the weight pressing into their spirit. They will feel the unease but not understand it. They will sense something shifting but dismiss it as mood swings or stress. Yet deep inside their soul knows the truth. This is the day when chains break, the invisible kind that wrap around generations, the karmic bindings that keep you repeating cycles again and again, the heavy burdens of lessons long carried that were never truly yours to hold. And if you are here, if your eyes and ears have found this message, then you are not just a witness, you are part of the chosen, the few who are meant to feel this energy not as confusion but as initiation. Think about it. How often in your life have you felt the weight of something you could not name? Times when no matter how much effort you poured into relationships, into careers, into personal battles, it felt like you were walking in circles, reliving echoes of the past that weren't even fully yours. That is karma in motion, and karma is not about punishment. It is about the repetition of lessons until your soul fully understands them. But here is the rarest truth of all. There are days when the sky itself decides you have carried enough, and instead of pushing you through more cycles, it opens the door to release. That is what September 26th is. A mass unlocking, a cosmic reset, 8 planetary forces moving in synchronicity like gears in a divine clock, loosening knots that have held tight for years, maybe even lifetimes. And already the symptoms are appearing, subtle to some, overwhelming to others. Many of you have felt the heaviness in your chest lately, that unexplainable exhaustion where even simple tasks feel like they drain double the energy. It is not laziness. It is not lack of willpower. It is your soul sensing the old weight preparing to lift. But the closer the breaking point comes, the more your body and mind feel stretched. Some of you have noticed strange dreams, not random but vivid, pulling up memories, faces, and events you thought you had forgotten. Dreams of old friends, past relationships, even moments from childhood are resurfacing, not to haunt you but to show you what is finally being released. Others feel restless, unable to focus, caught in sudden waves of sadness or bursts of energy, as if something inside them is cracking. This is not madness, this is alignment. The planets are stirring everything within you that is ready to be released so that when the alignment locks into place on that Friday, you are no longer carrying baggage that would only weigh down your future. For the chosen ones especially, this energy is unmistakable. You may have noticed your patience thinning, your tolerance for shallow conversations disappearing, your desire for solitude growing stronger by the day. You may feel distant from people you once leaned on, or even uncomfortable in environments you used to love. This separation is not rejection, it is preparation, because karmic chains are rarely cut in comfort. They are broken in silence, in those moments when you feel like you are losing everything familiar, but what you are really losing is the prison of repetition. The world around you may try to convince you that nothing unusual is happening, that it is just another Friday, but deep down you know the truth. The air feels different, time feels slower and sharper, like every moment is charged. You may find that your emotions swing wildly, from sudden anger to inexplicable peace, as if your soul is being tested on whether it can hold still through the turbulence. This is because the old energies are being stirred before they are stripped away. Imagine a pond that has settled for years, the mud at the bottom lying still, but now someone shakes the water and all the silt rises, making everything cloudy before it clears. That is what you are experiencing. And while ordinary people will feel it as irritation, fatigue, or even conflict, the chosen ones know instinctively that something bigger is at work. You are not being broken down, you are being prepared to rise. Every strange mood, every sudden pull towards silence, every restless night of tossing in bed, these are not inconveniences, they are signals. Signals that the old karmic loops are cracking, and with them, the cycles that held you bound to lessons you have already mastered. If you have felt like life has been repeating itself, like you attract the same type of people, the same challenges, the same endings again and again, understand that this is the exact moment those patterns are dissolving. And because of that, the symptoms may feel sharper, heavier, more undeniable than usual. This is why so many chosen ones right now feel the urge to isolate, to withdraw, to step away from noise. Because silence is sacred when karmic chains are breaking. In solitude, you can hear the whispers of the shift. In stillness, you can feel the cords snapping. Do not mistake it for loneliness, it is initiation. The universe is clearing space within you, making room for the freedom that comes once the planetary alignments lock into their new positions. This is the opening scene, the first drumbeat, the gathering storm before the breaking dawn. And as the 8 planets shift into place, the story will only grow more precise, more powerful, more undeniable, because what comes next is the real unraveling. The specific forces that will each take a piece of your old chains and shatter them into dust, starting with the weight of Saturn, the planet of karma itself, loosening its grip for the first time in years, and with that the first of 8 locks begins to open, leading us deeper into a doorway that has been sealed for lifetimes. And it begins with Saturn, the planet so many fear because it is known as the taskmaster, the teacher, the relentless examiner of our soul's contracts. For years, Saturn has pressed down on you like a weight, demanding responsibility, pushing you into situations where you had to learn patience, discipline, and endurance. It has felt like the silent hand keeping you stuck in lessons long after you thought you had completed them, as if the same obstacles circled back again and again. But on this day, Saturn shifts into a position that releases its grip, not because the universe has grown lenient, but because your soul has reached a threshold of completion. You have carried burdens, repaid debts, and walked through cycles until the very repetition has carved wisdom into your bones. And now Saturn steps back, acknowledging that the chosen ones have endured enough. This release feels like a sudden lightness, the sense that the old battles no longer hold power, that situations that once tested you endlessly now dissolve without effort. But as Saturn loosens, another force expands. Jupiter, the planet of growth and abundance, moves into alignment to amplify what Saturn has cleared. Where Saturn stripped away, Jupiter blesses, filling the empty spaces with clarity, opportunity, and blessings long delayed. Imagine doors that were locked for years suddenly swinging open, not because you forced them, but because the chains were already removed by Saturn's withdrawal. Jupiter magnifies everything, which is why clarity becomes crucial in this moment. For the chosen ones, it means opportunities arrive like waves. Wisdom clicks into place with divine timing, and paths that were once confusing become illuminated with unmistakable light. For those who cling to fear, Jupiter will magnify the confusion instead, making them feel overwhelmed. This is why awareness is everything, for Jupiter will either expand your faith or your doubt, and the chosen ones who stand ready will see their hidden blessings surface at last. But then comes Mars, the planet of fire and conflict, which has long stirred battles within you, not always with others but often with yourself. Mars has been the flame behind your frustrations, the tension behind your suppressed anger, the reason you have felt restless or ready to fight when no enemy stood in front of you. Yet on this day, Mars realigns, turning inward battles into outward strength. That anger that used to erupt as conflict now becomes focus. The confusion that made you lash out transforms into precision, and the restless energy that once tore through your peace becomes fuel for clear action. Mars ceases to scatter your fire and instead sharpens it into a sword, a weapon not to harm but to cut through obstacles with clarity. The chosen ones will feel it as sudden bursts of strength, as if decisions that once seemed difficult now come without hesitation. Where you once doubted, you now act. Where you once second-guessed, you now move forward with certainty. And as this fire stabilizes, Venus enters, carrying with it the healing of wounds that have lingered far too long in your heart. Venus, the planet of love and connection, steps forward not just to sweeten relationships, but to heal the scars of betrayal, heartbreak, and self-worth that karmic cycles have carved into you. You may find yourself remembering old loves, people who left, wounds that never fully closed, not to reopen the pain but to finally seal it. Where there was bitterness, forgiveness quietly appears. Where there was longing, release replaces it. And most importantly, the reflection you see in yourself begins to shift. The chosen ones will suddenly feel a softness where once they only felt hardness, a sense that love does not have to be painful, that connection can be pure, that self-worth does not need to be negotiated. Venus realigns your heart to the frequency of healing, turning the ashes of heartbreak into fertile soil for new love, not only with others but with yourself. And as love heals, Mercury awakens, and the chains around communication snap. Mercury, planet of the mind, words, and truth, has long been the source of misunderstandings, fog, and misaligned thoughts. But on this day, it aligns to clear away the distortions. The lies others told about you, the words you never said out of fear, the conversations that were twisted, all of them rise into clarity. The chosen ones will feel an urge to speak truth, not out of anger but out of necessity, as if the universe itself is aligning your voice with your soul. Suddenly, misunderstandings unravel, falsehoods collapse, and what was hidden comes to light. Conversations that were avoided begin to open. The mental fog that weighed you down lifts, and you find yourself thinking with precision, writing with clarity, speaking with authenticity. Mercury clears the karmic chains around your voice, making sure that what you carry into the next cycle is not silence born of fear, but words born of truth. And yet, the greatest illusions are not broken by Mercury. They are dissolved by Neptune. Neptune has long been the weaver of dreams, the spinner of illusions, the fog that made you believe false paths or cling to addictions and illusions. For years, it has kept many walking in circles, chasing shadows and believing them to be light. But on this day, Neptune's veil tears, and illusions can no longer stand. The addictions that gripped you lose their pull. The false paths you followed become obvious dead ends. The people who wore masks reveal themselves without trying. It may sting at first, because seeing clearly after being deceived can hurt, but for the chosen ones it is liberation. You begin to see reality not as others presented it, but as it truly is, and with that vision, karmic entanglements fall away. The spiritual fog lifts, leaving your vision sharp, your discernment precise, your spirit awake. And still, the sky is not finished. Uranus steps forward with its electric energy, the planet of sudden breakthroughs and disruptive freedom. Uranus does not move gently. It shakes, it shocks, it liberates in unexpected ways. On this day, Uranus snaps the chains in one clean motion, often through events that surprise you. A sudden ending, a sudden move, a sudden opportunity, a conversation that shifts your entire perspective. To those clinging to comfort, Uranus feels cruel. But to the chosen ones, it is the hand of freedom tearing away bonds they did not realize were suffocating them. It is the lightning strike that splits the cage, the sudden shift that forces you into the open air. Uranus brings disruption, yes, but it is disruption designed to deliver you into freedom. And as the shockwaves settle, Pluto rises last, carrying the final transformation. Pluto is the planet of death and rebirth, the force that takes what is rotting and replaces it with new life. On this day, Pluto does not whisper, it roars, shattering the deepest karmic chains, the generational bindings, the ego patterns that have kept you from stepping fully into your destiny. For chosen ones, Pluto feels like a death that is not death, the ending of identities, titles, and masks you no longer need. You may feel stripped bare, but only so that you can emerge reborn, no longer carrying the baggage of the past, no longer bound by illusions or fears, but standing in the raw power of who you truly are. Saturn loosens, Jupiter expands, Mars sharpens, Venus heals, Mercury clears, Neptune reveals, Uranus liberates, Pluto transforms, and together they orchestrate the breaking of chains that no single planet could do alone. This is not random, it is deliberate, a cosmic symphony designed to unbind the chosen ones from the past so they can walk freely into the new. And as the planets align in this sequence, the symptoms will intensify, the energy will sharpen, and the release will become undeniable, because what comes next is not just about planetary forces, but about how these shifts play out in your life, how you will feel them in your relationships, your choices, your sense of self, and even in the subtle fabric of your daily existence. And that unfolding is where we turn next, because when the planets shift above, the ripple is not just in the sky, it is within your heartbeat, your choices, the subtle ways your days unfold. And this is where the true meaning of these alignments becomes undeniable. You will notice that as Saturn releases, areas of your life where you always felt blocked or restricted suddenly loosen. That job that always seemed out of reach suddenly presents an opening. That financial burden that weighed on you begins to dissolve. That responsibility that kept you shackled loses its power. For years, you may have felt as if you were running in place, working harder but never moving forward, and now the invisible brakes come off. You will see this not as dramatic explosions but as subtle shifts, opportunities flowing with less resistance, delays suddenly ending, and a sense that time itself is no longer holding you hostage. This is the gift of Saturn stepping back. Life begins to feel lighter, and as Jupiter expands, you will feel your world widen. Unexpected chances will arrive. Conversations that seemed insignificant will lead to massive openings, and blessings you prayed for long ago but assumed were forgotten will suddenly come knocking. You may receive messages, invitations, or offers out of nowhere, things you thought were long denied showing up in perfect timing. For the chosen ones, it will feel like the universe has been keeping a ledger of every sacrifice, every effort, every act of faith, and on this day it starts paying them back with interest. Yet with expansion comes responsibility, because Jupiter magnifies whatever energy you carry. If you stand in clarity, the expansion is abundant and life-giving. But if you cling to confusion, Jupiter will amplify that chaos, making it overwhelming. This is why grounding yourself becomes essential, because blessings arrive fast, and without clarity, you may not recognize them. Meanwhile, Mars sharpens into action within you. Where once you hesitated, you now move. Decisions that were weighed down by overthinking become clear. Some of you will feel an urge to finally cut ties with toxic relationships, to leave jobs that drain you, to begin projects that once terrified you. The fire that burned as frustration now burns as momentum, pushing you forward instead of inward. And yet, because Mars once carried conflict, some around you may still react with hostility or challenge. But you will notice something: those challenges no longer shake you. The anger no longer controls you. Instead, you respond with calm strength, as if the battle was never with them but with yourself, and now that battle is over. This is Mars transmuted, the warrior turned into the protector, the restless fire refined into focused power. As this steadiness grows, Venus heals the aching corners of your heart. This healing may come in the form of closure, as past relationships resurface in your mind, not to reopen wounds, but to show you how far you have come. You may suddenly realize that people who once hurt you no longer carry weight in your chest, that the pain has transformed into wisdom. For some, this will manifest as new connections forming, gentle, sincere, filled with authenticity rather than drama. For others, it will simply mean learning to love themselves without condition, to look into the mirror and no longer see someone unworthy, but someone finally aligned with love's true vibration. This is karmic healing at the heart level, chains of rejection and heartbreak dissolving so love can flow without distortion. Mercury follows this by opening your voice. If you have felt silenced, unable to express your truth, this is when the words begin to flow. Important conversations happen effortlessly. Misunderstandings clear themselves as truth rises into the open. You may feel compelled to write, to speak, to share your story, and what you say now carries weight, not because it is loud, but because it is aligned with authenticity. The karmic chains that made you swallow your truth, that made you second-guess your words, finally snap, and with that comes a freedom you did not know you craved. You will notice communication flowing smoother with others, clarity in work, clarity in relationships, clarity in your own mind. And as words align with truth, Neptune pulls away the veil. Things you once believed reveal themselves as illusions. The people who wore masks in your life can no longer hide. The habits that once numbed you lose their power. The dreams that were never real collapse in silence. At first, this may feel disorienting because seeing clearly after years of fog can sting, but the chosen ones will feel liberation more than pain. It is like waking up from a long dream. You grieve what you thought was real, but you rejoice in the clarity of finally knowing. Your discernment sharpens, your vision becomes precise, and illusions no longer control you. And then Uranus comes, often with shock, shaking the ground beneath your feet. Do not be surprised if sudden endings occur. Friendships drift, jobs collapse, unexpected shifts turn your path overnight. This is Uranus cutting the cords with force, and while it may look like chaos, it is precise liberation. The chosen ones will notice that what Uranus removes is exactly what they no longer need, even if they did not realize it. Something ends, and within days you understand why the freedom it grants becomes clear. It is disruption, but it is holy disruption, a breaking designed to deliver you into open air. And then Pluto, dark and powerful, brings the deepest transformation of all. You may feel old identities dying, the masks you wore to please others or to protect yourself simply falling away. There may be moments when you look in the mirror and feel like you do not recognize yourself, not in a frightening way, but in a way that tells you the person you were is being stripped so the person you are meant to become can emerge. This is ego death, not as punishment, but as liberation. The false self dies so the true self can live. And for the chosen ones, this will feel like a crown replacing scars. Every hidden battle, every silent tear, every invisible sacrifice is transformed into strength. You emerge lighter, sharper, truer, no longer chained to the karmic cycles that defined your past. And as these shifts unfold together, your daily life begins to change in subtle but undeniable ways. You may notice that conversations feel different. Some people's words feel heavier, draining, while others feel refreshing, as if they breathe life into you. You may find yourself uninterested in things you once craved, entertainment, distractions, even certain foods or habits losing their grip. You may wake up one morning and realize that something you thought was essential to your identity no longer matters, as if it has been gently cut away overnight. These are not losses, they are liberations, the karmic chains being removed from your timeline in ways so subtle that only later you will realize how massive they truly were. The chosen ones will feel this as a quiet reset, a sense of emptiness not because something is missing but because space has been created for something new. And while ordinary people may cling to confusion, chosen ones will stand in awareness, sensing the sacred in the silence, feeling the divine hand in every disruption. Yet all of this is only the unfolding. It is preparation for the final sealing, the moment when the equinox energy following this alignment locks it into place, deciding what remains and what vanishes. And that is where the greatest turning point lies, in the final closing of the old cycle and the irreversible step into the new. Which is where we now turn next, and this is where the weight of everything converges, because all the planetary motions, all the symptoms you have felt, all the chains already beginning to break are leading to a single doorway, a cosmic checkpoint that cannot be bypassed. And that doorway is the equinox that follows immediately after the alignments of September 26th. Imagine for a moment that the universe is a great scale, a balance held in perfect precision, and on this one day the light and the dark weigh the same. Day and night stand as equals, shadow and illumination meet as partners, and the universe pauses, not to destroy but to measure. That pause is the equinox, the still point where what Saturn stripped away, what Jupiter expanded, what Mars ignited, what Venus healed, what Mercury clarified, what Neptune revealed, what Uranus disrupted, and what Pluto transformed is finally sealed into balance. This is not random sequencing, it is surgical design. The eclipse before the equinox was the hand that removed the hidden stones from the scale, but now the planets align so that when the equinox locks in, the balance you step into is not counterfeit but true. For the chosen ones, this is the day where karmic chains do not simply loosen, they snap for good, because balance without cleansing would have been an illusion, and the universe refuses to let you walk into illusion again. Think of everything that has been stirred in you in recent days. The restlessness, the exhaustion, the urge for solitude, the flashes of clarity, the sudden endings, and understand that all of it was preparing you to stand at this threshold clean, ready, and aligned. When the equinox locks in, what was taken will not return. What was healed will not reopen. What was revealed will not go back into hiding. The karmic cycles end here, and as this balance settles into place, you will feel it, not always as fireworks or loud announcements, but as a deep exhale in your spirit, the kind of peace that does not come from external circumstances but from the lifting of burdens you may not even have realized you carried. The chosen ones will notice the shift in the days that follow. Synchronicities intensify. Prayers long unanswered begin to manifest, clarity floods decisions, and relationships realign to reflect your new frequency. The chains that held you bound to repetition dissolve, and suddenly the patterns that haunted you no longer repeat. That toxic relationship you always seemed to attract no longer appears in your path. That financial struggle that kept resurfacing finds resolution. That deep loneliness that lingered even in crowds transforms into the sacred solitude of someone who finally knows their worth. These are not accidents. They are the proof that karmic bindings have broken. But do not mistake this for ease without effort. Freedom always requires choice, and now that the chains are gone, you must decide what to build in their absence. The universe has cleared the room, but you must choose what to fill it with. This is why clarity has been demanded of you in these days, because indecision is the only prison left. If you stand undecided, you will wander in circles, not because karma drags you, but because hesitation binds you. But if you stand in decision, even one clear choice, the universe moves with speed, faster than you have ever experienced, because the thinning of the veil accelerates manifestation. You will find that intentions crystallize quickly, that what you name with clarity lands almost immediately. A thought becomes an encounter, a prayer becomes a message, a vision becomes a door opening. This acceleration is the reward of chains broken, the sign that the universe has not only freed you but trusted you with the responsibility of shaping what comes next. And so the closing message is simple yet infinite. You are not who you were before this alignment. You are not bound by the cycles that once defined you. You are not trapped in the loops that kept you circling the same pain. You are no longer carrying debts that did not belong to this lifetime. The chains are gone. What was lost was never loss, it was release. What felt like endings were not punishments, they were severances. What seemed like confusion was the stirring of clarity waiting to land. The chosen ones are stepping into a chapter where karmic repayment turns into karmic reward, where the battles fought in silence become crowns, where the shadows endured become proof of strength. And though the world may not notice, though ordinary people may still walk blind, unsettled, unaware of what just took place, you will know because you will feel it in your chest, in the way the air tastes different, in the way your spirit feels unchained. The equinox does not give false balance. It seals true balance into your life. Balance earned through shadow confronted and illusions stripped away. From this moment forward, the road ahead may not always be easy, but it will be free, and freedom changes everything. It means you no longer walk as someone bound, but as someone chosen, carrying light not as decoration, but as power. It means your manifestations carry weight, your decisions carve reality, your silence becomes sacred, your clarity becomes currency. And perhaps most importantly, it means that when you look back months or even years from now, you will remember this date not as another Friday, but as the day the sky rearranged itself to snap the chains you thought would never break. The chosen ones do not fear this change. They rise in it. They do not shrink in balance, they expand in it. And as you step into the days that follow, remember this. The universe has measured you, the cosmos has tested you, and now the scales have declared you free. The karmic cycles are complete. The doorway has opened. The balance is real. And everything from this moment forward will unfold from the truth that you are no longer chained, you are no longer repeating, you are no longer waiting. You are finally becoming who you were always meant to be.